Hi, Bob.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. I gotta change my background because I was at that's my niece right there. And we were having a blast doing a Zoom chat the other day. And now I have to see if I can, oh, there we go. I think I can remember how to do this. Let's just get rid of, well, I'll just put young Paul Rudd in the background.
It's always nice to
How are
look at.
you?
Good.
So Sean's having computer issues.
Yeah, it's important for him not to freeze up because he does most of the talking.
Right.
Unfortunately,
I
he
get
does freeze up a lot.
it. Let's see here. Go into, I want to, how do you get it without a background? I don't even know. God. I mean,
I have.
everything's Paul Rudd anyway, but okay. My glasses are, that's kind of a problem. Well, oh well. How's your Monday night?
It's been hectic. Literally just got home from work.
Oh no.
Well, I
Tired,
mean,
probably.
well, yeah, I mean, I don't know. My boss has pancreatic cancer. And
Oh,
so I've had
jeez.
to kind of step in and do a lot of his stuff on top of my stuff. So it's just been, I mean, it's been fine. I enjoy the work, so I'm not complaining. It's just a lot.
No, and that's, yeah, that's stress all around for everybody. God.
Yeah, and my just like over the weekend, the first boss I ever had, I worked at Hardee's in Geneseo. She passed away from pancreatic cancer over the
Good
weekend
God.
at 46. He's at least 71 and a millionaire, but still not fun.
Wow. You're taking on a lot today. Well, overall. Hi, Sean.
There he goes.
What the hell?
Shut up. I needed a background. And now I can't get rid of it. So now it's like I've been trying to fix it and I can't seem to like get it going.
And of course, your face is right over Lisa Kudrow's, of course.
I didn't plan it.
Oh, right.
I really didn't. I really didn't. I swear I didn't. Hang on. I'm gonna try. I'll get a different background. I don't know how to get rid of backgrounds because Jen made me do this for. We did a conversation after Megan's. Um, she had a baby shower, and I can't get rid of it now. So,
well, you're gonna have to do the show with that because we're starting.
all right, never mind. I'll just put these here. We'll be fine. We'll be fine.
All right, so briefly, I want to mention The Last Champion since I finally watched it just to make Jason happy. The Safer at Home, Crisis, Tiger, The Vigil, United States versus Billie Holiday, Coal Miner's Daughter, The Doors, My Heroes Have Always Been Cowboys, and Shipwrecked.
Yeah. I didn't watch the last two, but yeah.
I watched one of them. All right. Let me get the music ready. And then we can go.
Are we live on YouTube?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I gotta probably cut out that part about my boss.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I didn't say anything mean.
No, that was sad, Bob. I'm so sorry.
All right.
I'm drinking beer. Is that a problem live on YouTube?
I don't think so.
Okay, good.
All right, ready?
Yep.
And go. Welcome to Everyone's a Critic movie review podcast. I'm your co-host, Bob Zarrell. With me, as always, is professional film critic Sean Patrick. And joining us this week is Amy K. I mean, how do you want your name to be?
That's fine. Yeah. I mean, I'm Sean's sister. You can always just call me Sean's sister. That's fine, too.
Why do you always tell people that?
Because you love it. You love it.
Visit us at ihatecritics.net, everyone's a critic podcast.com. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Our handle is CriticsPod. You can listen to us at Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Alexa, all your podcatchers. We're on YouTube. We're live right now, either Sunday mornings or Monday nights. So if you want to follow us there, click the little bell in the right-hand corner, upper right-hand corner.
Who knows?
Get notified when we're live. Just find the bell. Just go to YouTube and find the bell.
You've been on YouTube before. You've done this. It's fine.
I've never actually clicked the bell for anybody. Is that a problem? And then patreon.com/criticspod, the best way to help support the podcast. We do a live or a bonus episode every month. We had the I Spit in Your Grave, which has come out. Amy joined us for that one. We also currently have out there the A24, the top 24 of A24, featuring Josh, our old co-host. And we have an idea for the April one, although I can't find it. So we'll have to figure that one out.
Yeah.
But either way, we'll do something. We're going to try to do it monthly. But let's go ahead and get started this week. Let me find my pictures. The people watching at home. Don't go to the wrong thing. Okay, good. Last I went straight to my Google or Safari browser. This is a movie. We'll start with The Last Champion. We're going to be brief because only I watched it. It was our Fishing with Gandhi, the movie we talked about but never saw. Our Patreon supporter Jason Bryant is actually in the movie. He's a Hall of Fame wrestling broadcaster, and he is. You know how at the end of like a Karate Kid movie or a Rocky movie, there's that big score at the end that kind of goes with the fight. Right. Instead of that, it's him and two other guys broadcasting the big fight. It's kind of unique, and it actually works. But this is it's a faith-based movie about a, down on his luck, high school hero who comes back to town after, leaving the town with kind of a stigma behind him, and he's not welcome back in the town right away. And eventually the wrestling coach dies and they need a new wrestling coach, similar to like, the Way Back with Ben Affleck, only with wrestling instead of basketball. Sure. At first he's being he's being blackmailed by one of the parents on the wrestling team. And then finally he kind of starts to do what's right. And, you've seen it before in all these movies, but it's surprisingly a solid movie. You get invested in it and, you got to take it with a grain of salt because I am friends with one of the guys in the movie. Excuse me. But, it actually does hold your interest and it's fairly competent. There's nothing wrong with it. What's going to happen halfway through it. How the match is going to end, just like in every other movie like this, where you have the foreshadowing match beforehand and then the ending match opposite of what happened in the first match happens.
Yeah.
But they do a great job of, keeping you entertained and on the edge, maybe not edge of your seat, but they just do a good job with the movie. It's very competent. The faith-based stuff I'd say it's more of a wrestling movie than a faith-based movie. So that isn't in your face either. I don't know. I thought it was really good. And I just thought the ending was really neat with the actual broadcast versus having some cool score. Yeah. It was a different way of going about it. So in the show notes, Jason Bryan has his own podcast, Matt Talk wrestling podcast, and he also does several other wrestling podcasts with all these colleges across the country. But he had a lot of the people from this movie on his podcast, so I'll have a lot of those notes in our show notes as well. But I just wanted to mention that I saw it, and it's worth seeing if you're into just your straight ahead, fun, feel good sports movies. This one does work. All right.
Good to hear.
Let's start with Safer at Home.
Yes, Safer at Home is from director Will Wernick, who wrote and directed this, and he's the same guy who did Escape Room, which is one of my favorite horror movies of 2019. This one is a Zoom-based horror movie, which is the idea here is that a group of friends are getting together for their buddy Evan's birthday. They're doing it over Zoom. And this is because the pandemic in this universe has lasted into 2023 and gotten a lot worse. So it's even deadlier and scarier, and everybody's more locked into their homes than they ever were before. So there's one of them in Austin, one couple in New York, there's two couples in Los Angeles, all on this one Zoom call. And from there, they're trying to celebrate as best they can. So one of them gives them, he sent them all a gift that was in commemoration of their planned trip to Las Vegas, which includes a hit of Molly. And they each take that, and then things progress from there. As the poster's got a woman covered in blood in it, and the movie isn't necessarily about being covered in blood. It's much smarter than that. This is not a traditional horror film per se. This is a drama that happens to have one singular moment in it that turns everything into a not a mystery, but certainly something else. It makes everything more dramatic and heightened. And I thought this movie really did this very well. I thought the score especially really does a great job of building up the pace and the excitement, and they really ratchet things up towards an ending that is shocking and unique. And for what it's worth, I mean, of these movies, and when we see these movies so often, these types of horror films, I see so many of the same things. I liked the way this one did it, and I liked these characters, and I liked that it's not one of those movies where you're watching the background for something to move. This is all human drama as opposed to supernatural stuff. There's nothing supernatural in this movie at all. It's all human drama, and I liked that about this.
I agree. It's so fast paced too that you don't have a chance to pick it apart. So any flaws that it would have, you're so invested in what's going on that you just miss them, and because of that, it really does work. At no point are you sitting there saying, I wouldn't do that. Or maybe you're wondering, if I was in this situation, here's what I would do. But it's moving so fast that you don't have time to get hung up on that, and it doesn't ruin the movie for you. I thought it was really well done and very, very watchable. And I liked how they paced it, because it allowed you to not get caught up in anything that could be wrong with it, to the point where I couldn't tell you what's wrong with it because it was that well done.
Yeah, it's really impressive, and he's a good director. He did the same thing with Escape Room. He took a unique premise and played it out to its logical conclusion. Concluded a good deal of smart scares, and this is equally as, if not even more, economical than that movie.
What would you have done though if it was you?
I would have given up right away.
I think that, yeah, especially knowing what happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's not a whole lot to say other than it's good. And
Amy, do you have any questions about this movie? I know you didn't see it.
It only got 3.5 stars out of 10 on IMDb.
That's bizarre to me. I really think that's strange. I don't know what movie they're watching.
Is this like an unknown cast then, or?
Yeah, there's nobody well known in this movie. I could name these names and no one would probably recognize them.
I know I didn't, but then I watch a lot of YouTubers, so it could be anybody in any movie at this point. But I mean, and I almost always trust reviews on things. Again, just even looking at this graphic kind of freaks me out. It looks like Natalie Portman or Lana Del Rey with chocolate on their face. I don't know. I don't have any questions.
All right.
I hate horror films, so.
Well,
like I said, it's not traditionally a horror film in many ways.
Right.
There's one thing in the entire movie, really.
And you don't find with most like found footage like movies, you're always wondering, well, drop the camera, or why are you still on Zoom, or whatever it is. You don't have time to wonder in this movie, which I like, but it is weird that it has such bad reviews. I wonder how many reviews are.
Well, can I just bring up one of the things that I saw on here?
All right.
That I thought was kind of fascinating. Now, of course, here it is. Okay. So, wow. Again, this just came out this year. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
It's
probably
the main thing was from Variety, and it just said, "Friends, just don't let your friends take Molly on Zoom," basically. And then apparently it just gets uglier at that. But there was one that I found, and now I can't find it. But if I find it, I'll bring it back up. But this woman basically said, I could have just taken Molly and got on Zoom myself and done this, So
okay,
That's
not sure
in the movie.
Yeah.
That'd be a different experience.
It would be an entirely different experience. I've never taken Molly, but come on.
Try reviewing the movie. I mean, maybe try watching the movie. I don't know. I know there's a large bias among many people, whether they're critics or just audience members, against Zoom movies or movies about quarantine, because, the last thing anybody wants to think about is quarantine when you're in it. And this movie is, using quarantine as an important part. It's the entire setting of this film.
The thing over they actually, and I can't remember the company that did it, but I watched a couple over in the UK. They made some pretty provocative Zoom movies, like short films, just short films. One had Maxine Peake in it, and it was just her and this guy, and they were basically saying, she's not coming back to him. She went home to another friend because he'd been abusing her. And it was a fantastic. It was so good. Again, like 15, 20 minutes long. But if you do it right, it can be compelling. So I do actually, I want to watch this because I'm very, very curious to see how this plays out.
In terms of in quarantine movies, I mean, Locked Down with Anne Hathaway and is a good movie, but nobody watched it because, again, nobody wants to watch Quarantine. They hear Quarantine and it's like, forget it, I don't want to see it.
Maybe 20 years from now. I don't even know if 10 years is enough time after this.
The worst part was Trump was still the president in 2020.
God damn it! Did they bring that up in the movie?
He's in it as the president.
Yeah.
I'm not going to watch this movie.
I mean, it's just a little bit, but
right.
It's too long.
But it is available to rent on Amazon and Apple TV and all your other.
I highly recommend it.
I'll watch it.
Crisis.
Oh, I love everybody in this except for Armie Hammer. I love this. I love Gary Oldman. I love that the Wasp is in this. She probably wasn't the Wasp in this.
No, okay. Definitely not. This is Crisis is a film by Nicholas Jarecki, who has done some things in documentary and also a couple of different films here and there. It's about the links in the chain of the opioid crisis, whether it's the corporate higher end or the street level stuff, where you've got Evangeline Lilly has a son who dies in the midst of the opioid war. You've got Armie Hammer as a cop who's trying to take down a big pill machine, and then you've got Gary Oldman, who's a professor who runs a study essentially on one of these big clients of his, one of these big pharmaceutical clients who want him to just rubber stamp their pill so they can get it on the market because they claim that it's not addictive, but it is. And they want him to pretend that it's not. And he has the ethical battle over whether or not to do it. These plots don't really come together, but they're all representative of different aspects of the opioid crisis. And in that way, it's like a series of short films about the opioid crisis, which is kind of interesting. The Armie Hammer one's pretty typical cop stuff. The Evangeline Lilly one is an emotional plot that it feels kind of stunted a little bit. Gary Oldman, though, is incredible in this movie and really kind of nails the aspect of this that is the really interesting part, the ethical crisis. The mustache twirling villains in this movie, the pharmaceutical companies, they're a little bit over the top, but not so much that I was upset about it, because they do kind of come off as villains. When you read stories on Twitter about how people lose their insurance and they can't afford diabetes medication, and they have to, and they're basically reusing needles so they can just try to keep the cost down. I mean, it just these are villains. regardless of your feeling
Sounds
about
like
your villains. And these people who are trying to put out this particular drug claim it's not addictive, but their claim is that it's not addictive after 7 days. But if you go 10 days, suddenly it's super addictive and people die.
Who knew?
Which Gary Oldman's people discovered just kind of by accident, which is fun. I like this movie. I think it's a good movie. In fact, I think of the 2 movies that I saw that are involving the opioid crisis this week, it's actually the better one, which we're going to talk about the other one on another show when it's actually available for people to watch outside of theaters. This is actually a better movie about the opioid crisis than that movie is.
And this is only in theaters right now?
I believe so, yes.
All right. Anything else on Crisis before we move on?
Nothing really. Just like I said, it's better than it looks from the photo. It doesn't look very good in that photo.
Tiger.
This is again kind of. I'm not sure whether this one qualifies as an opioid movie. It's a heroin movie, but it's also a drug movie in a different way. Tiger is an art piece more than it is anything else. The director of this movie was trying to tell the story of his own addiction, but do so in a very abstract way. So he has sort of a plot where this woman played by Sam Corton works for this clinic where she is paid to essentially obtain pills by any means necessary, take them to this clinic, and then they get smuggled to this place called the Slabs, which is a real place in California that is off the grid. People live there in the middle of the desert on what the slabs of what were supposed to be homes that never got built. And they've built a community there that it's become a haven for, criminals and such and drug users, but also just a place where people who don't want to be found by regular society can go and hide out. And they need medication just like everybody else. So her job is to smuggle it there. She ends up robbing this place while Dylan Sprouse's character is there getting his methadone because he's trying to get off of heroin, allegedly. He kind of likes heroin, so he's not sure how much he wants to be off of heroin. And that's his journey throughout the movie is he'll have opportunities to have heroin or not have heroin. And he's also believed to be rich. They believe he's rich. So a couple of people kind of target him for perhaps kidnapping and such as the story goes on. They enter the Slabs and they go into this very strange community. And it turns into a part documentary at that point because they actually use the people who live on the Slabs or Slab City, as they call it as well. They use them and they have these almost documentary sequences where the actors are being led through the scene by people who are showing off what they do in Slab City, whether it's raising chickens to sell eggs or trade eggs to other people and so on, or, making art and whatnot. And some of it's really lovely, but for the most part, this is just a meandering, go nowhere kind of movie. I don't mind the art piece kind of stuff, but realistically, there's just no life to it in the end. And I think Sam Corton's really great. Dylan Sprouse isn't a bad actor. And I'm not going to sit here and crap on the guy because he was on Nickelodeon or whatever he was on, Disney Channel, whatever it was. I know he was one of the babies on Full House. I don't care. I'm not
Daddy.
I'm not going to make fun of him for that. But he is the only actor in the movie. And he stands out because he looks like the only one who's really kind of searching for an actual narrative to play off. He's looking for something to play against, while everybody else is more of a non-actor. Sam Corton's an actress, but everybody else in the movie is kind of a non-actor, and he's trying to act against them, and it's very obvious. And that's I think that's him, and he was at a disadvantage in many ways in that way.
Yeah, it's pretty pretentious. And I mean, not that they're the same movie, but having just seen Nomadland also takes away from this. And I mean, I'm going to get to the same thing later on in the show where 2 movies, one, I don't know, we'll get to them later on, but just because you've seen something else, it affects your opinion of another movie.
Yeah.
And that did the same. I just had a hard time caring because 1, Nomadland's so good. And 2, this is an art piece, so you just have to be in the mood for art pieces, and I wasn't. So,
yeah. I'm with you.
Anything else on Tiger?
Not really.
Great poster. Love the movie art.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
The Vigil.
The Vigil. This is a fun movie. I like this movie. This movie stars a guy named Dave Davis who plays Yaakov. He's a former Jewish Orthodox man who has moved on from his religion due to a very serious trauma. He's trying to move on anyway, but his community kind of is also trying to draw him back in. He's got this friend of his, Minash, who's trying to bring him back around and bring him back into the Orthodox. Which he kind of does when he offers to pay Yaakov to come and sit the vigil for this man who's just passed away, which is a thing in the Jewish community, in the Orthodox community especially, where somebody needs to sit with the body for 24 hours before it can be taken away for burial and prepared for burial. Somebody else was doing it. They ran off and disappeared, and he's asked Yaakov to step in and stay the night at this house sitting the vigil. And the rest of the movie is kind of you watching for that body to move, And there's a couple of really great scenes in this movie where the director, Keith Thomas, does a great job of framing Yaakov with the body in the background, and you're just going, "Where is it? Watch his hand." Like you're just watching the screen all over the place, trying to see where it's going to move. And maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But it uses Judaism as a way to reinvent this type of storytelling. And, because we've seen this with a million different movies of, the Christian faith. So using Judaism as a way to do that, and the way that they use it, and the way that they use his trauma of having lost a child to feed into that, and to feed into this legend of this character that they have, this villain character that they have, I thought was really clever. Again, it's everything you've seen before in one of these movies, but I think it's better just because Dave Davis is a much more interesting actor, and really they just take the things that you expect this type of movie to do, and they just do them better, and I can appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree completely. Everything that they what they add to this is any problem you have with other horror movies, they deal with it with using the different faith, and then his past problems they do a good job with that, making you question things less, if that, for lack of a better phrase. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I thought it was really smart taking something very typical and then making it fresh again. It was pretty impressive.
Yeah, that's what I love about it. And really, when you're going to make a movie like this, and they're going to continue to make movies like this, just do it as best as you possibly can, and look at other movies and see where their problem areas are and improve upon them. And I think this movie did that.
I was just reading a review from The Decider, and they were saying that it skulls somewhere between The Exorcist and The Babadook.
Yeah.
So would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
Kind of. I mean, I think it's better than The Exorcist, but
yeah, no, it's not better than The Exorcist, but it definitely The Babadook does.
That I can't do that. I watched that movie with my niece, and that movie was. I would prefer The Exorcist if I have to pick the movie. I would prefer The Exorcist.
Just because The Babadook's too scary.
Oh my God! I can't do it when it's too. There was something about kind of divorcing yourself from The Exorcist of the time, it's like, well, that happened way before me. And then you're making a movie with all these beautiful, I mean, it looked gorgeous, but it was too much.
This is definitely closer to The Babadook.
Okay.
Of horror. But another movie that does something really smart to make it not a typical idea fresh.
Strangely enough, I think a movie that it kind of reminded me of in a weird way is The Last Exorcism, which is a movie that is about, exorcism in movies. And it takes that concept and does it better than other movies about exorcism. And I appreciate that. And I think this movie takes something that you recognize, a demon movie, and just does it better. And I appreciate that.
Lee Daniels film, The United States versus Billie Holiday.
Yes, this is an incredible movie about the life of the legendary singer Billie Holiday, starring a woman by the name of Andra Day, who is, I'm not sure what she's done before this, but she's incredible. And the performance here is the center of this movie. And for her to hold that center so extraordinarily well is really something. Lee Daniels is a hell of a director. I haven't loved everything he's done, but I loved this. This is just when you try and nobody's ever really given Billie Holiday the proper look. They've never really given her the real historical treatment that she deserves, and I think this movie does that. It's incredibly fair to her. It's a clear understanding of her and her problems, but it's also placing her in the context of history, where it takes the song "Strange Fruit" and forces you to recognize just how incredibly bold and brave it was to sing that song at that time. To the point where the federal government was trying to stop her from singing it because it was radicalizing people when they heard it. And it's true, it was. It's a radical song. It was one of the first truly radical songs in history. And I'd really not given it much mind, honestly. Then finally, for the first time watching this movie, I'm actually listening to it, and you're hearing what she's actually saying. It's like, my God, she said that to audiences at that time. That's bold, and that's something that, she was the first to do it. Nobody else was doing it. I mean, you had a lot of people out there that I'm not trying to call out like the late Little Richard, but he was trying to placate audiences with a good time. And as much as Billie Holiday was capable of that, she was also going to sing "Strange Fruit" and make you desperately uncomfortable. On the same token, she's also very troubled. She had a serious drug problem, and this movie details, in a way that's very similar to, say, Judas and the Black Messiah, about the ways in which the FBI, or the DEA in this case, so the virgin form of the DEA, the way that the federal government tried to stop yet another Black Messiah. You have somebody who's rising in influence and becoming popular. So, of course, find out what's wrong with her, take her down. The same thing happens with, we talked about this with One Night in Miami and Malcolm X. We talked about this with Judas and the Black Messiah. And now that African Americans are getting the opportunity to tell these stories and tell the truth about these stories,
Finally,
it's such a huge, I feel almost ashamed at how surprised I am.
well, I've had a history with Miss Billie, and one of the first records that I really took seriously, and I was only maybe 18 or 19, was Lady in Satin. So a lot of this kind of era was what I was always obsessed with, especially with her. I read books about her. I knew that there was, the drug problem. I knew all of that. I was waiting to see how that was going to kind of play out in this. They actually were very tender with it, and I can appreciate that. I mean, it was a serious business, but this Andra, can I cuss on here?
Yeah.
Fucking amazing. Just fucking amazing. And everything that came out of her mouth, and she's doing all of the voice. She's doing all of this herself. And I only knew her from that Rise Up song, which it was in every commercial, every video, everybody had it, but she's a 1,000% more than that song. That song's pretty beautiful, but what I liked about this was they made her human. I automatically went back to like Lady Sings the Blues, even Mahogany. I was going back to like that kind of thing. This was such a portrayal. And again, we live in a time now, thank God, where we can really, really show that grit. We got that grit with her. To me, seeing her in one of the situations that there's a scene in this movie where she had her tour bus broke down, and they're all outside playing ball, and this guy that she'd been in a relationship with, he comes to get her, and she leaves behind somebody so very important to her, and leaves behind the Prez. And I know a lot of these stories, but I didn't realize how much, I guess, Jimmy played a part in this story. And that goes even deeper. They just knocked it out of the park for me. I bawled pretty much. I don't know, that last 40 minutes of the movie, I think I just kept crying because I love her music so much and because I laud her as one of the greatest. And Strange Fruit is, if you haven't heard it, you have to listen to it, because a lot of time when you're young and you hear those records around that time, you just think, God, this is great, but you don't pay attention to the lyrics. That was the one song that you have to pay attention to the lyrics to. Period.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really add anything to what you guys are saying other than, I mean, I guess I can, other things I noticed within it are, I mean, part of the problem with, you know, stuff that goes on today in terms of like the police and whatnot and African Americans is she was literally followed all the time, just waiting for her to make a misstep. That's something that we don't have to ever deal with.
Yeah.
And the war on drugs, you know, I even early on, there's part of me in my head goes, well, she did have a problem.
Yeah.
You know, that's how we were grown up and were raised on.
But you saw why.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's part of, there's so much unintentional racism there. There's definitely intentional as well, but for a lot of people, they don't even realize it's racism because that war on drugs has been beating in them so hard that rather than saying this person has a problem, this person's evil. And they're not really necessarily putting a color with it. A lot of people, too many are, but the way it all started was because of that. And I don't know, it really did a good job of hammering home how strong that war on drugs is and how many people really buy into it. And I mean, you can't look at stuff that's happened, or you have to look at other things like George Floyd or whatever. For the most part, right off the bat, everybody who watched that video was like, yeah, that's not good. Even right-wing people were looking at it and going, yeah, that's not right. But then as soon as the stuff came out about his past, like that matters. That's
glom onto that shit.
Yeah, and it's that kind of, I mean, they don't realize people just need help. And
you know what? The thing about this too is that right out of the gate, that very first scene, I keep calling him Leslie Jordan. That's is that because I know him from Will and Grace?
Right. I don't know what his actual name is.
And I do adore him, but when I saw him, I thought, I felt a little bit like, oh, this might be a little miscast. But he did a great job when he was saying, it's like, couldn't you just not do that? Why'd you do that? You could just do this. Why do you do this? And then the minute she comes out and says, have you ever seen a lynching? And to me, it was like, boom. And that reaction from Leslie Jordan, that was that like kind of thing that he does shut down. And that's where we get to see this movie just, that worried me. That very first scene really scared me. It worried the hell out of me. I'm like, oh, you could have gotten anybody. Martin Short as Jiminy Glick would have been better. Why are you doing this? But it actually turned out to be a beautiful, beautiful job that they did, just starting it right out of the gate. And I'm glad that they kept going back to that, because that's the era that I really focused on with her as well. It was that period of time. But I can't say enough about this movie, not just as a fan, but because they took such great care in how they cast it. And I liked that we saw that it wasn't a dark underbelly of jazz. This was just their life. And it's how it was. And I could just really appreciate that. I don't think that I'm so glad to see that Andra won something for this, because bitch is going to do some really great things after this. I just know it.
Yeah, throw every award at her. She disappears into the role. Similar to, I mean, even better than like Joaquin Phoenix is. I mean, I when I watch Walk the Line, I see Joaquin Phoenix trying to be Johnny Cash.
Yeah,
I didn't see anything with Billie Holiday here, and that's hard to do in these biopics.
Agreed.
going back to what you were saying before, Bob, about her being followed everywhere. I've had this long running conversation with a couple of different people I know, trying to explain privilege to them. They cannot seem to understand that it is a privilege to not be followed everywhere that you go, to not be considered suspicious just by walking into a place. That is privilege. We have, the three of us each enjoyed that
Absolutely.
privilege. Whether we knew it or not, and whether we've constantly failed to recognize it, but it is a privilege that we have, that she was robbed of. It was taken from her in a very specific way.
Constantly.
This movie is really great at demonstrating that. It is really great at demonstrating privilege. It's also a beautiful movie, and it's a movie that allows her to be sexy and vulnerable as well. The sex scene between her and Trevante Rhodes makes me sweat just thinking about it.
Intense.
It's so beautiful, beautifully shot, just lovingly, beautifully shot. It's incredible. And again, you don't expect that in a biopic like this, that type of bold sexuality, and especially you don't get to see that among African American characters allowed to have that type of bold sexuality.
You know what you're talking about with that, as far as Black characters, and again, we're three white people talking about this, and it seems it's awkward, but I actually, that scene reminded me of Boys in the Hood between Cuba Gooding Jr. and was it Nia Long that did that? Was that Nia Long?
Yeah, it could have been.
After this horrific gang violence, he goes back to her house, and they're teenagers, and he just leans down, he gets down on his knees, and he just hugs her, and it turns into their very first sexual experience, and it was gorgeous. It was beautifully shot. The music was fantastic, and that's kind of what again, it's like it's coming from a white person. You don't get to see these kinds of things. We've seen so many. We'll get to that with The Doors. Too many of these white bodies just doing things. But everything was beautiful. Everything was lyrical. Everything mattered. It all made sense. This movie, I don't know if I can watch it again because it was painful.
Yeah, you get to that final image of her. She's dead and chained to her bed,
handcuffed by the foot.
Just the cruelty and the disgust. I don't even know how anybody can be that inhuman.
Yeah.
I guess my question is, do enough of us have Hulu? Is this on the right platform?
Right.
Question. Good
I mean,
question.
it's funny, but I mean that this is kind of a must-see movie, and it's on Hulu, and that kind of bums me out. This would be way better off on even HBO Max. Netflix just really should have had this movie, or Amazon. But people need to see it. So if you don't have Hulu, it's worth getting it for a month just to see this movie. It's that important.
Get a free trial. My God. Yeah. I mean, this would be like that theatrical film that I would have gone to. So she can't get an Oscar from this because it was on Hulu.
I mean, they've changed all the rules this year,
Thank God.
so she'll be eligible.
Thank God.
This is,
yeah.
It's going to be up there at the end of the year for sure, in terms of best of the year.
But how do you decide though between her and Frances McDormand and Carey Mulligan? Like, how do you decide?
I haven't seen the other two. I got to see those.
Do they count as the same year?
I think so. Yeah, I think they're all. Yeah.
I mean, I'd give it to her or Frances McDormand.
So like I said, she won the Golden Globe last night, Andrew Day.
Well, I know.
So they're all in the same Oscar run.
Okay, but by your rules, as far as Golden Globes go, we all know if you win a Golden Globe, it's likely you're going to get that Oscar. I mean,
did she win it for comedy musical though, or did she win it for drama?
I don't know off the top of my head.
I could see them throwing this in the musical category. And then did she beat Frances McDormand, or did Frances McDormand win too?
I don't know honestly. I think she won. I think there was only one actress category, and there's only one actor category in the Golden Globes. There's two movie categories. There's musical movie, and then there's musical, and then there's drama.
Jim Carrey's been nominated for the actor in the comedy one when he's been in dramas, and they've always made jokes about it. So I know they have the two categories. Whether they still do or not, they definitely used to. They always put comedians in the wrong category when they're in drama. Regardless, awards are stupid, but
yeah, especially the Golden Globes.
Well, really, any of them anymore. The Oscars have been disappointing for a long time.
Not the Critics' Choice Awards.
No, those matter because Sean's name was on them before.
I vote for him every year. I'm a member.
I know.
You guys vote for Star Wars before seeing Star Wars.
I didn't vote for Star Wars.
You didn't, but other critics have. I just hate Star Wars. Sorry. Anything else on the United States versus Billie Holiday before we move on?
Watch it. Just watch it.
Trevante Rhodes from Moonlight. Almost forgot to mention him, but he's amazing.
Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event for the linear, legitimate, and universally recognized
Coal Miner's Daughter.
Coal Miner's Daughter is a 1980 biopic of Loretta Lynn starring Sissy Spacek and Tommy Lee Jones, and it tells the story of the woman who would go on to be the queen of country music, Loretta Lynn, who had 4 kids at home when she went out and tried to become a country music star, and she made it. And I don't know why they decided to make a movie about her. I'm sorry. What's the big drama of this movie? She has a very happy life, and her husband might have cheated on her a couple of times, maybe.
He actually really did.
Right. But do you see that in the movie other than him laying on a girl's lap?
No. I think that there was some... well, obviously, I mean, we're talking about a movie that came out in 1980, 81. Yeah. We're not going to get the grit that we will probably get in about 20 years when they decide to make this movie again. Or maybe even 5. God, we don't even know.
They're waiting for her to die before they...
There it is. There it is. And
I'm sorry, just every dramatic beat of this movie, everything that should be important doesn't feel important. Like suddenly you look up, she's got 2 kids. Suddenly you look up, she's playing the Grand Ole Opry. Like, I thought this was going to be dramatic. The most dramatic thing that happens doesn't even happen to her. It happens to Beverly D'Angelo. She's the one who has something big and dramatic happen to her, and she's dead.
Okay, but the thing is, like, with Loretta, she had a breakdown. She had she was exhausted, and she realized, wow, and by that point, I think she had the twins too. So she had 6 kids at home. She'd come from a holler. She came from nothing. And then she got to something. I mean, to me, and the music was fantastic. The fact that Sissy and Beverly D'Angelo sang their own songs, that's impressive.
I guess there's certain unfairness from my part because I hate country music. So there's that aspect of it. I don't hate Loretta Lynn. I don't have a problem with Loretta Lynn. I just don't like country music. I don't like the twang and all that stuff. And so the musical aspects of this didn't do anything for me. I didn't care about it. And even I thought the movie's called Coal Miner's Daughter, and there's nothing about why it was important for her to write that song. On top of which, her Wikipedia page is more dramatic than this movie. Did you know that some of her songs were banned from the radio because they were so controversial? Does that come up in this movie? Does this movie come up? Does that come up in this fucking movie one time? The most dramatic thing that happened to her entire career, other than her best friend dying, doesn't come up in the fucking movie?
I know. Again, it was 1980, and they still didn't like the fact that she sang a song about the pill. And, after she had, 4 kids by that point. Yeah.
And is that in the movie?
No.
No.
Stop. It feels like you're slapping me through the camera.
Look, Sissy Spacek is fine in the movie, but nothing happens here. She goes from being happy to being happier and more successful. What a fun movie.
They didn't even really establish like the whole exhaustion thing. Like they should have, they showed her with the pills, but yeah, I get that. But Bob, what was your take?
with all of these movies, all these biopics, with the exception of the Billie Holiday one, really, they run through their career so fast. You know, whether it's Ray or Walk the Line or even the Motley Crue one, it's all about the performance. And its performance is great, which it is here. She disappears into the role. I look at that picture and I don't see Sissy Spacek at all.
All right.
So she does a good job disappearing. Tommy Lee Jones does not. He's definitely Tommy Lee Jones the whole time.
With blonde eyebrows. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that drove me nuts.
But they're trying to cover too much in a short, in 2 hours, and it just never works right. And basically it comes down to, do you like the performance or not? And most of the time we do, and we always nominate, Joaquin Phoenix and Jamie Foxx. And did Sissy Spacek win for this one or get nominated?
I think she did. Yeah.
So to me, that's what it's all about, is just the performance of playing somebody that's real. But the movie itself was just kind of, it's watchable, but it's so fast paced and you gloss over important things that, just out of nowhere, she barely knows Patsy Cline in this movie. She dies so quick. Because they have to keep moving because, she had a long career. That's the problem with these movies.
But this suffers from that Stephen Hawking movie disease, where you don't make a movie while somebody's still alive. If they can still tell you about their life, don't make a movie about them. Now, granted, Rocket Man is a different bit, because I thought Elton John did a pretty great job with making that more of a dreamlike thing, not necessarily a biopic per se. Right. But you're making this movie while Loretta Lynn's still alive. Is she really telling them all the truly dramatic things that happened to her, or does she ask them to shave off the edges a little bit? And probably, I'm guessing that she did, because this movie has no edges. It's a completely smooth from beginning to end.
Whereas if you went back and you watched Sweet Dreams, the Patsy Cline story with Jessica Lange, that's dark. And that has a lot of grit to it. And I mean, you see the fight. What I didn't like about this movie was how they glossed over, like she could tell, we all knew that Patsy did not have a great relationship with Charlie at all. It was bad. But even just having like a conversation about that didn't happen.
Right.
And that was a bit much. But I mean, again, it's from her point of view. No, I don't want to hate this movie. Fuck you guys.
I don't hate any of them. I just, like, even Straight Outta Compton. It's a long movie, but it's just so fast. So much happens. And quite frankly, they shaved off the edges in that movie. Not all of them, but some of them.
That one's hard, too, because we lived through that period of time. Right. And remembering, how great some of those albums were. Yeah, that slightly disappointing. But again, how much can they fit into an hour and a half?
Right. And
whereas this, they could have fit in more.
But it's still watchable, and the performance is good, so got that going for it.
It's barely a TV movie as far as I'm concerned.
No, you're right. It's like, I keep going around the house going do. You're right. This could have been a movie of the week. Now that I look back, but production wise, I thought it was good. I thought the soundtrack, again, I thought that was fantastic. I like any artist, any actor that's going to take on the role and then sing with it. That's, again, it goes back to Andra. You're actually singing that. You're mimicking that sound. That does deserve an award, not just for mimicking, but because you just embodied the role. So like Bob said, you're right. I look at this picture. I look at Loretta. I don't see Sissy. And that does make a difference. Maybe that's why I like it so much.
On that note, this guy saying,
"Fuck this! I have to go get another beer because I took notes for this one, so I'll be back."
Yes, from 1991, 30 years of the Doors. Oliver Stone's version of the lives of the Doors in the 1960s, and this tells the story of Jim Morrison, is played by Val Kilmer, alongside Ray Manzarek, John Densmore, and the other one whose name I can't remember now, Robbie Krieger. Thank you. I figured it out. It's not about the Doors; it's about Jim Morrison, because everything was always about Jim Morrison. That's how the Doors operated, and it wasn't necessarily that he wanted it that way, maybe, but that's the way it became. And this is a lot of hippie bullshit. This is just I love the Doors. I love the music. I'm a big fan. This one I would buy the soundtrack for. The rest of this shit is a lot of hippie bullshit. And
why buy the soundtrack when you can buy you have all the albums? Fuck that.
It's a really great soundtrack, and there's some really great concert footage in this that is recreated extraordinarily well. Val Kilmer really throws himself into it, and I just don't fucking care. I really don't. I don't care. I didn't buy into Meg Ryan and her role. I kind of bought in on Kyle MacLachlan as Ray Manzarek, who I think is probably the most talented person in the entirety of the whole thing. I think Ray Manzarek is way more important than anybody in this movie, but he's not the subject. I don't think there's anything wrong with Morrison per se. I don't have a problem with Jim Morrison. It's sad what happened to him. It's sad that he burned out so quickly. But I don't. He was 27. Is there much to say about him? He fit the mold of what he was doing very, very well. But I was having this conversation with somebody earlier about what makes Jim Morrison, so intriguing. And I just thought to myself, what if you had to be around Jim Morrison sober? Could you imagine trying to deal with this motherfucker while you're sober? He's climbing on fucking cars, talking about being the fucking Lizard King, and you're just like, Jim, get the fuck down, please. I don't want to go to jail.
We're going to Starbucks. Jim, come on.
Like, he's talking about ride the snake. Like,
well, back then, the problem was they put him on a pedestal and treated him like a god.
Yeah.
So
it was a cult.
Yeah. I have, you guys know who Burton Cummings is? He's
familiar
from the Guess Who.
Okay.
On my last podcast, not my last, but an old podcast I got to interview him, and he was telling me a story about when he first got to LA for the first time. They had just gotten signed. They were starting to, I think These Eyes were out. That song was out, and the rest of the band wanted to go to the hotel and just go to bed. And he decided to just walk around. He ended up getting in a cab, and the cab driver goes, "Hey, you going to the party?" And he's like, "Yeah, I'm going to the party." So the cab driver just took him to his house, and he doesn't know anybody at the house. He sits down at the piano, and he's goofing around, and all of a sudden turns around and Jim Morrison standing at the edge of the piano, and he ends up driving Jim Morrison. Jim Morrison makes him get in the car and drives him around LA for like 3 hours.
Wow. A better story than this one.
Oh yeah, it was this one. And what this does, what's crazy is everything I complained about in the last one.
Yeah,
they take care of that in this. It's more original than those movies, but it's just kind of like, I don't give a fuck. And I don't know if it's just like Jim Morrison's great and all, but he's also the most overrated talent of all time by a lot.
Yeah.
And I think Almost Famous, Call Him a Drunken Buffoon is pretty right on. And
whereas the Guess Who had the courage to be drunken buffoon,
which is yeah, Guess Who. But that's where it's just kind of, I don't know. The further I get away from the Doors, is I like their music. It's very cinematic, but then when you watch the movie, you just kind of like, you're in it for a second, and then you're like, oh, this is dumb.
I have to say this. My favorite line in this movie, and I did find one, and it was after Morrison was recording his spoken word, his poetry, and he's done. And Val Kilmer, as Jim Morrison, stands up and says, "Come on, let's get some tacos." That was my favorite line in this movie. But I have to go back to this because I was reading what Siskel said.
Yeah.
And again, I found this really interesting because what he referenced is a movie that I do love. And he said, in portraying he actually was talking to Oliver Stone, and Oliver Stone said, in portraying this life, he wanted this movie to be like All That Jazz. He wanted Morrison to be like Bob Fosse. He wanted to portray it like All That Jazz. All That Jazz, I don't know if you guys covered this on this channel, but it's an insane movie. You have to be in the mood for it, but it was done so well, in my opinion. And once I knew that, like I was reading that right in the middle of watching this movie, and I'm like, fuck this. Val Kilmer's no fucking Roy Scheider. Get out of here. Get out of here. You don't do that. This is not all that jazz. This is pretentious crap. And I thought Oliver Stone was like the pinnacle. And when he was doing this interview with Siskel, and this was like a very long interview, he was making JFK, or they were getting ready to, they were in pre-production for JFK. So you could just tell Oliver Stone just kind of knew, well, I can pretty much do whatever I want at this point. People are going to take me seriously. This is going to be the most important film. All I saw was women's bushes. I heard a lot of the same, you know, I can appreciate the Doors music. I have never cared. And one of the other lines that I thought was really interesting, this was from one reviewer. They said this was like a long slog through a Doors song, because Doors songs get so unbelievably boring to me. And when I read that, I'm like, that, because it just goes on and on. And then you have Meg Ryan, America's fucking sweetheart in this movie.
Right.
And by that point, Sleepless in Seattle hadn't even come out, but it was getting there. She'd already done When Harry Met Sally. I bought nothing about her and Pamela Corson at all. It was a pretty face and a nice body to make that. I bought Kathleen Quinlan as Patricia Keneally so much more than I bought Meg Ryan. And I don't even like Kathleen Quinlan as an actress, but I bought her. I got that. I don't know. This movie was trash. It was just absolute garbage.
Oliver Stone is certainly somebody who bought into his own myth, and by extension, I think he got a lot of other people to buy into it. And if I have any critical goals, it's to expose the fact that he's not very good.
Yeah,
I'm kidding.
But you're not wrong. I mean, other than like Platoon, which was something that he knew. He was so like there was no interpretation.
He knew he was there.
Yep.
Everything that he's had to interpret though, because Platoon was like so close to one of the first things he did, he never had to answer to anybody again, and that's a problem. If he had somebody saying, well, let's back off a little bit, I don't know, it's his interpretations really are junk. There's good acting in them, but the movies themselves are problem. I think Val Kilmer's good in this.
Yeah, but I would say that he certainly looks like Morrison. He's got the Morrison act from any video that you've ever seen down. That's certainly true. It's funny when I was listening to an interview with John Densmore talking about this, and he's talking about how Oliver Stone approached them to make the movie. And he's like, well, there's really not that dramatic, man. Other than, Jim died young, but I mean, we did not really a lot happen. And he was kind of rolling his eyes, talking about how, Oliver Stone's got like naked women running up on the stage. He's like, if naked women ran on the stage, I think I would have remembered that.
Yeah.
I remembered only wanting to see this because it was 91, because I had a minor crush on Frank Whaley. And he was so miscast and misused in this movie as Krieger. It was just like, I love him. They have like that one really great moment again up on stage. They both are kind of fucked up, but just give me back to career opportunities with Frank Whaley. I don't want this. I don't want him in this.
What this kind of reminded me of too was in a very bad way was Bohemian Rhapsody, which takes the great things about Freddie Mercury and lets the band basically off the hook. Those guys. Nothing to say that Krieger and Densmore and Manzarek were bad guys. Not to say that the Queen guys are bad guys, but the fact that we're in the middle of a party. Nah, we're gonna go home. We're calling it a night, Jim. And they repeat that scene verbatim in Bohemian Rhapsody, where Brian May, and then we're like, we've got to get up tomorrow, Freddie. We're gonna go home because we're not actually rock stars.
And like Bohemian Rhapsody, it's the music that gets you
right.
Think you like it the first time you watch
yes,
it.
Absolutely.
With this one, where it suffers, is Apocalypse Now already exists. So
the better Doors movie.
Right. Yeah. Every time I watch it, I like it less.
Yeah.
That's the first time I saw it.
That's the experience of Oliver Stone movies. They're diminishing returns.
I can't wait till we have to go to Natural Born Killers because I haven't had a chance to watch that through that lens yet.
I can't to this day, but please invite me back for that one because I've got stories on that one.
All right, I watched this one.
Oh,
good God!
oh,
You crazy bastard! What the hell?
I was at work. I just put my phone on. It was in the background. This is kind of like The Last Champion, only worse. Only instead of wrestling, it's bull riding.
Are you going to do 8 Mile after this? Because I'm done. I'm out.
I tried to make 8 Mile the classic, but
not 8 Mile. No. 8 seconds. Sorry.
This was comic, pretty funny for.
Yeah.
I mean, not on purpose.
A comedy?
Oh, that's Balthazar Getty. I had a huge crush on him. Isn't that him on the end there?
I don't know.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Look, I can look like River Phoenix. Treat me like River Phoenix.
You shut up. Shut up. Balthazar Getty had great hair.
But this is it was easy to watch. Scott Glenn rarely had a shirt on, which was awkward.
You got to get that Scott Glenn fan service in there.
Oh,
yeah,
Scott Glenn's a thirst trap everywhere.
Right off the bat, he gets impaled by a bull.
Oh,
and
nice.
Then he breaks his father out of the nursing home, and Gary Busey tries to bring him back.
Gary Busey. Wait, Gary Busey is the voice of reason.
Gary Busey's his brother-in-law, but in order to save the house, he has to get back into bull riding.
His dad does? Because that would be amazing.
To win $100,000. It's, I don't know. It was free on IMDb. That's why I watched it.
What year was this, Bob? Was this 90?
91.
Was this...
91. These all came out the same weekend.
Yeah. It was a very good year. 91. Yeah. But Scott Glenn was not. I guess if my mom was alive, she would be like, "Oh, he's hot," just like everybody thinks Sam Elliott is. I don't get it.
You say 91's a good year. You're not watching the movies.
I watched.
We're watching these fucking movies, and this year fucking sucks so far.
So far, it's great because it sounds like a Lampkin already.
But you haven't got
right. Well, yeah.
Break,
okay, fine.
But Point Break has not come up to you guys yet.
No,
not yet.
Probably this summer.
You need me for that one. You're gonna need that. Oh God.
I think I've seen this movie. I did.
I may have. Probably at school.
Gabriel Byrne. Yes, I did see this movie. Not recently.
Yeah.
Whatever happened to Nils Gaup?
Who's Nils Gaup?
Well, he's the director.
Oh my God. I have no idea. So Bob, what's coming up next week?
Yeah, that is our show. Next week, we've got Coming to America 2. That's on Amazon.
Yes.
Raya and the Last Dragons on Disney Plus. There's a movie called Boss Level on Hulu, starring Mel Gibson and Naomi Watts. We may or may not watch that. A movie called The Sentinel on Netflix. And then you mentioned Sophie Jones. I don't know what that is.
Yeah, that's.
In 1991, Closetland, The Hard Way, La Femme Nikita, and New Jack City came out.
Oh,
big 91.
Yeah.
I love New Jack City. I will always love New Jack City. I'm sorry. That's one of the was fantastic.
You just like berets. Be clear.
I did. I like the berets, but that soundtrack had the original Color Me Bad, I Want to Sex You Up. It was dirtier than the one that they released to the radio a year later. So to me, aces. Yes.
And I don't know what our classic is yet. Probably something from Eddie Murphy. We've kicked around the Beverly Hills Cop. We've kind of done it before, not necessarily as a classic, but I have no problem watching any of those old movies again. But we'll let you know on that one. Do you guys have time for Flick Chart?
Sure. Amy, have you heard of Flick Chart?
No, it sounds terrible.
It is.
Okay.
Where is it at? That's my Facebook. There we go. Flick Chart.
All right. So
Airplane versus Miller's Crossing.
Choose which movie you like more. I go first, and then you can go. All right. Miller's Crossing.
Airplane.
I'm going Miller's Crossing. I do like Airplane though.
I do too, but it's Miller's Crossing.
I'm not going to do Hey Arnold. So.
No, I don't.
I was already haying her. Okay.
Mission
Last Boy
Impossible.
Scout. Sorry.
Rogue Nation or Last Boy Scout?
Rogue Nation.
Going with. Sorry, when he runs down the field and shoots his way into the end zone.
Mm,
Man of Steel, Out of Sight.
Out of sight.
yes.
Yeah,
Out of sight for sure.
agreed. Go Sin City.
Sin
Sin City.
Sin
Yeah.
City.
I love Go though.
Good's great. Four
Shrek
weddings. Sorry.
or 4 Weddings and a Funeral.
Four weddings. Are you kidding? It's a fantastic movie.
Shrek's a pretty fantastic movie too.
Yeah, but if you watch it now, the jokes don't fucking hold up. They're terrifying. They're Mike Myers terrifying now.
I'm a big Shrek fan, so I'm going Shrek. You can go wherever you want, Sean.
4 weddings.
I used to have like a life-size Shrek doll that I slept with. I was in the dark
Oh, no.
until my wife threw it in the fire camping.
Good.
Snake Eyes, The Dark Knight.
The Dark Knight.
Oh, God, yes, The Dark Knight. Fuck Snake Eyes.
The
I
Manchurian
can't with
Candidate,
this one. I
Braveheart.
can't.
I don't know. Just
Can you choose
Manchurian
neither?
Candidate's not very good, and I don't
It's easy.
care about Brave. Fine, just give it to Braveheart.
The Last of the Mohicans, The Apartment.
The Apartment.
Yes.
Agreed. Captain America, The Winter Soldier, Civil War, The Quest for a Budget.
Winter Soldier all the way.
Is that Three Amigos? Oh, no.
Three Amigos, The Day After Tomorrow.
Three Amigos.
Yeah, I hate The Day After Tomorrow, so Three Amigos.
In Bruges, The Usual Suspects.
In Bruges.
I'm Usual Suspects, but I love that movie.
I'm Usual Suspects too, even though I'm probably not supposed to like it anymore.
Yeah.
Lara Croft, Tomb Raider.
Are you kidding? Are you fucking kidding? Bob, no.
What?
I can't, no. Did you see Adam? Did you ever watch Adam?
I don't know what Adam is.
Okay, I watched it like 1,000 times because I was so afraid of being stolen by somebody else in a white van with no windows. I can't with this. This is terrifying.
It's literally a movie about a boy who was kidnapped in Iowa, like 2 hours from where we grew up.
Oh,
Wow.
yeah.
And
Just
it stars
Lara
Daniel J.
Croft.
Trevante.
Yeah. Oh, I love that name so much. Just do Laura Croft because I can't do Adam. No. That's painful.
All right. I've never seen either one, so
Neither.
you know what scared me that around that time was Dee Snider.
Was
My
what?
baby-
Dee
Dee
Snider.
My
Oh,
babysitter would play Twisted Sister videos and I would cry. And my dad had to tell her to stop. The Mist, Demolition Man.
Demolition Man.
Demolition Man.
Love The Mist, but I have a soft spot for Demolition Man. Man on the
Ah.
Moon.
Yeah.
Andy
Yeah.
Lives.
Man on the Moon is better than Bewitched.
It is.
Yes. Drive, Syriana.
Drive.
You know, I have not seen either, so you guys had to pick that.
I agree. Rocky 4, Misery.
Misery.
Rocky 4.
I mean, I'm a big rock. Misery really didn't hold up like I wanted.
Really?
it to.
Yeah, I'm with you.
I went back.
Nobody's seen Elvis on tour. That's not even a movie.
Plus, I hate
Yeah, but
Elvis.
no one cares about Transformers.
Yeah, but fuck
Oh,
Yes.
The Crow. The Crow.
it. Crow or Transformers.
Amy, it's a podcast.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Only the 4 people watching on YouTube. Friday, Flesh and Blood.
I don't know what Flesh and Blood is. I'm not seeing that one.
I would always go Friday anyway, but that's just me.
Friday or Training Day.
Gosh,
You love Training Day, didn't you, Sean?
I do. I like Training Day.
Yeah.
I picked Training Day.
I'd go Friday, but that's just because that's my humor.
I
But I
love
haven't seen it since then, so I don't know.
I think I'd watch Friday first. Do you know this one, Sean?
No, I've not seen Summer with Monica. Unfortunately, I want to though.
Scream 3 or Coraline?
Coraline, by a lot. Scream 3 fucking sucks.
Yes.
Prehistoric.
I've not seen either of those movies.
Nope. Wait, Prehistoric Woman. That was a Mystery Science Theater. Uncle Buck on that one.
Or 101 Dalmatians.
Sorry, Bob.
Fine.
Yeah, Uncle Buck's fine. I'm not a fan of it anymore, but
Rio 2 or Dude, Where's My Car?
like the ultimate. I don't.
Which
give a
one
fuck.
inspires you more?
Dude, Where's My Car? It's got a better
It
title.
inspires you more?
It's got a better title.
Okay.
Contagion or Fever Pitch?
These are two really good movies. I'm saying that. I'm gonna go Contagion.
The British version of Fever Pitch is better, but yeah, go Contagion. I would do that one too.
I agree. The Lives of Others, Fearing Loathing in Las Vegas.
I'm not sure about The Lives of Others. I think I might have seen it, but I don't remember it.
I don't know it either. Madagascar 2.
Fear
Fear and Loathing.
and Loathing may be up its own ass, but it's more entertaining than Madagascar 2.
The Hobbit, Alien 3.
Ooh,
Josh's little heart tearing in half.
oh.
Fucking, I don't know. I'd rather watch Alien 3. I think it's shorter.
At least it has Fincher's name on it.
Exactly. There you go.
Miami Vice, Zack and Mary Make a Porno.
Zack and Miri all the way.
Absolutely.
Agreed. The Manchurian Candidate, 1962. The Count of Monte Cristo.
Manchurian Candidate.
Yes. Resounding, yes.
World War Z, Up in the Air.
Up
Up
in
in the air. Yeah.
Gangs of New York, The Getaway.
Gangs of New York for me, but I'm kind of alone on that one.
I haven't seen either, so.
God damn it, I gotta find a quarter. Gangs of New York. Just don't like that movie. Oh, yes.
For fuck's sake. Come on.
Last one, Sean. Billy Madison or Ben-Hur?
Oh, fuck.
Which one would you rather watch?
Because Billy Madison, because I'd be watching Ben-Hur through next week. Fucking hate Ben-Hur.
Both of them, in my opinion. I just don't care.
Fucking tire fire both of them. All right.
Oh, come on.
Good night. No, it's over.
Thank God.
Talk to you later.
Good day, all.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you for joining us. Bye.
You bitches.